For introduction, food freezing is a food preservation process based on exposing food to temperatures below its freezing point, a point at which the state of matter changes and the properties of the product are altered, turning it into ice and solidifying all the water or moisture contained in the food. Normally, this point is between -18 degrees Celsius and -35 degrees Celsius, although this will depend on the type of product to be frozen. Different types of commercial freezing systems are available depending on the product's characteristics. The following is a general classification of freezing system, which is for indirect contact system. The example is plate freezers, air blast freezers, freezers for liquid foods. Second, direct contact system. The example is air blast freezers and immersion freezers. This experiment, we have three objectives. First, we can describe the temperature history at the center of solid and liquid foods that crucial in understanding the freezing process. Solid foods typically experience a gradual decrease in temperature until reaching the freezing point, followed by a more steady decline during the freezing phase. In contrast, liquid foods tend to undergo a more uniform temperature reduction until complete solidification. Second, we can explain the effect of different process conditions, product size, and air velocity on the freezing time. The freezing time is affected by the initial temperature of the food, the efficiency of heat temperature in the freezing environment, the size and shape of food product, and the speed of the air circulation. These factors collectively determine how quickly a food item transitions from its initial state to a fully frozen state. And lastly, we can compare the freezing time calculated using Planck's method with those obtained from the experiment. It provides insight into the accuracy of the theoretical approach. Evaluating these two sets of data allows for an assessment of the reliability and applicability of Planck's method in predicting freezing times in practical scenarios. This comparative analysis aids in refining and validating the theoretical model against real-world experimental outcomes.
Our data analysis consists of three parts: exporting data from browsing websites to Microsoft Excel, analyzing the graph plotted in Microsoft Excel, and lastly, comparing the pattern of the graph plotted.
Next, we move to plot comparison. The larger diameter of the material will result in longer freezing time since the heat must be absorbed until it reaches the core of the potato. When the air velocity is increases, it leads to more efficient heat transfer process. The air surrounding of the object become frozen, move faster. It helps remove heat rapidly from the object. For example, freezing time of potato is 5.126 minutes for diameter 10 times 20 mm, while freezing time of potato with diameter 5 times 10 mm is 1.716 minutes.
Next is the plot comparison of graph freezing time versus air velocity of potato and water. As seen by both graphs, potato have a lower freezing point than water. This is because the potato composition consists of wide range of substances like water, starch, proteins, and other cellular components. The presence of solutes in potato can lower the freezing point compared to a pure water. This is also known as freezing point depression. The more solids present in a sample, the lower the freezing point becomes. Also, from this graph, we can see the freezing time decrease when the diameter and length of both samples decrease. As the size of sample becomes smaller, its surface area increase. A higher surface area facilitates faster freezing because they transfer heat more effectively. Moreover, from this graph, we can see that higher air velocity leads to lower freezing time due to increased convective heat transfer. An increased air velocity allows the heat from the sample to be quickly removed and causing it to freeze quickly.
In water, the temperature decreases from 20 degrees Celsius to 0 degrees Celsius as the sensible heat is removed, leading to a drop in the freezing point. During the phase transition, the temperature remains constant at the freezing point until the latent heat of fusion is removed, transitioning the liquid water into solid ice. Once the water has entirely solidified, the temperature decreases rapidly as more sensible heat is removed. Compared to water, potatoes have a quicker freezing time. The initial phase of temperature decrease, where ice crystals begin to form, occurs at a lower temperature than water due to the presence of solutes in the food. The removal of latent heat with the decreasing temperature takes less time compared to water. This process continues until the potatoes become a mixture of solid components and ice. Finally, the sensible heat is removed until the endpoint temperature is reached.
The next is effect of air velocity on the freezing time. As air velocity increase, freezing time decrease. The increase in the heat transfer coefficient from food samples at increasing air velocities is the reason for this. The heat transfer coefficient is influenced by air velocity. The faster the air, the higher the value, and consequently the better the heat transfer that occurs. When compared to the air in the equilibrium with the product surface, the concentration of water vapor in the surrounding air is lower. Therefore, water is transferred from the product to its surroundings. In terms of heat transmission, the product undergoes a water concentration gradient that results in the transfer of water from its inside to its outside. Hence, cooling of the surface causes water to evaporate.
We need to search the information that needed to use this method. Then, after we get the information that needed, we can enter the values into the formula, which is Planck's method. We get the answer in seconds, which is 802.40 seconds, and then we need to change the unit to minute, which is 30.37 minutes.
For the calculation of the potato, we use a different density, latent heat, heat transfer coefficient, and also thermal conductivity. So, from the calculation, we can see that the diameter for 5mm potato, we get the freezing time is 6.08 minutes. While for the diameter in 10mm potato, we get the freezing time is 12.62 minutes.
From the calculations, the analysis determined that the freezing time of the potato sample had the shortest freezing time compared to water. The Planck's method could not accurately determine the freezing time due to insufficient information and lack of specific values for certain parameters. The freezing time calculated using Planck's method for different air velocities remains same for the same diameter. It is because the convective heat transfer coefficient was kept constant in this experiment. In fact, it should vary with different air velocities as it is dependent on air velocity. However, in this experiment, specific values for this coefficient were not provided for each velocity, leading to the same calculated freezing time for the same diameter regardless of air velocity.
In conclusion, the freezing process of both water and potatoes entails the elimination of sensible heat, which is succeeded by the phase change that turns a liquid into a solid. Because they contain solutes, potatoes freeze more quickly, which lowers their initial freezing temperature and release latent heat more quickly. Because of its higher heat transfer coefficient, which promotes faster freezing and more effective heat transfer, air velocity has an effect on freezing time. The product's internal water transfer and concentration gradient both aid in the overall cooling process. Comprehending this variable is essential for enhancing freezing procedures across a range of uses, including food preservation and commercial environments.
That's all from us. Thank you.